So this is the greatest player on the Denver Broncos roster right now that I'll bet you have never heard of. So one of the big concerns going around Denver Broncos training camp over the past few days after cornerback Riley Moss went down with a core muscle injury and he's slated to miss about a month is who's going to step up at cornerback to replace that production. Moss was slated to have a breakout rookie season potentially, and he was looking really strong in the first couple of days of camp. But there's been another corner for the Denver Broncos who I'll guarantee has flown under pretty much everyone's radar, but you're going to have to learn this name pretty soon, Broncos country, because he is coming to take a big role on this Denver Broncos defense this year, and that is cornerback Jaquan McMillan. McMillan is a former undrafted free agent that the Broncos brought in last season out of East Carolina. He's a little bit undersized at 5'10" and 183 pounds, so he's somebody that I mostly chalked up to being like a backup nickel for the Denver Broncos, a backup slot corner, not somebody who I figured would see snaps on the outside at the boundary position. But lo and behold, Jaquan McMillan is actually getting reps with the second team and sometimes even the first team at the boundary corner position, the outside corner position. That's not the position that I would have figured would have suited Jaquan McMillan, but here we are, guys, and as we're getting ready to talk about, he has taken that new role and thrived with it. Last season, in his rookie year, Jaquan spent most of that time on the practice squad, but he did get elevated for the Denver Broncos season finale against the Los Angeles Chargers, and in that game, he played every single snap on defense, mostly due to injuries for us at the cornerback position, and he made some really, really nice plays. He had a PBU in that game, if I'm not mistaken. He looked really, really solid, had a couple of really nice reps covering Mike Williams before he got hurt, and now, as we enter training camp this season, Jaquan McMillan is making an impact with this new defensive coaching staff led by defensive coordinator Vance Joseph. However, his position coach from last year in Christian Parker is still here. So you know that Parker is probably vouching pretty heavily for Jaquan McMillan right now, and McMillan has definitely earned some playing time this season for the Denver Broncos. I don't think it's any question now that he makes the active roster. But now the question is, what is going to be the role for Jaquan McMillan this season, and what is the ceiling for him? So before Riley Moss got injured, he and Jaquan McMillan were seeing reps as the direct backups to Pat Surtain and Damari Mathis, respectively. But now that we have obviously lost Riley Moss for probably the rest of training camp, it seems that the Broncos are now really viewing McMillan in a more elevated role, and he's actually rotated in a couple of times in lieu of Damari Mathis at the boundary cornerback spot alongside Pat Surtain. And the reason for this is because Jaquan McMillan is so speedy and so tacky, man. I mean, this dude can keep up with the fastest wide receiver on the field, stride for stride in man coverage. He breaks at the same time that the receivers break. He's made a couple of really nice PBUs on the ball. Jaquan McMillan looks like he could be a legit contender to be a rotational starting corner for the Denver Broncos. So Damari Mathis and him could essentially rotate in at that boundary spot, at that boundary corner spot, whenever each player is basically needed to be utilized for their own respective skill set. So Damari Mathis, he's really solid in man coverage as well, but he's not exactly the fastest corner that you're going to find out there. He's fast, but he's not quite as fast as Jaquan McMillan is. So in the event that the Denver Broncos are going to have to cover a speedy number 2 receiver in particular, I can think of games right off the bat, such as the Miami Dolphins game. That's a game where we could see Jaquan McMillan, because you know that Pat Surtain is going to be locking up Tyreek Hill pretty much that whole game, but we're going to need somebody with also lethal speed to help keep up with Jalen Waddle in that game, and that's where I really feel like someone like Jaquan McMillan could come into play. Jaquan McMillan, again, could see some significant snaps on the starting unit for the Denver Broncos this year, and I would not be opposed at all to the team rotating him in with Damari Mathis when each player could provide something a little bit different with their own respective skill set. So that's something I would keep an eye on. But even if Jaquan doesn't see starting snaps right away, he is pushing Damari Mathis really, really hard. I mean, he is making life really difficult for Damari Mathis right now. So keep an eye on the name Jaquan McMillan, Broncos country. He could be somebody who could be a preseason darling for the team and also somebody who could make an impact as we go into the later part of the regular season, especially when guys are unfortunately probably bound to get injured. All right, Broncos country, I'm curious. How do you guys feel about this news of the breakout of Jaquan McMillan, and how do you feel like he's going to fall in on the depth chart at the corner spot? Drop those comments down below, guys. I would love to hear your thoughts on this as always. Be sure to leave a like on this video as well as subscribe and ring the bell so these videos appear in your notification feed. I would really appreciate it, guys. Those are two free and easy ways to show your support. It helps tell YouTube's algorithm to push us out and helps us get seen by more and more members of Broncos country just like you and me. And until next time, guys, this has been another episode of Denver Broncos Syndicate. I am your host, Gage Madrid, saying peace out.